Salutations and welcome to Space Time Continues. My name is Mary Louise Davey and let's get going to space. But let's hold off and do that at the end of the show, as right now we're going to get into the stories, okay? What has space travel done for you? It's often not recognized how much space, astronauts, exploration, and that whole world of thought helps those of us who remain here on Earth. Now, many of us either don't know of NASA giving us anything or believe that they gave us the MRI itself, which NASA didn't. Magnetic resonance imaging, the MRI, is from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, but not exactly, because what they did was they were trying to invent a way of imaging or processing to enhance pictures from the moon. And so when they did that, that discovery there contributed to MRIs and CAT scans. And then they were able to, they, meaning John Q. Public, was able to provide MRIs, etc. I mean, they've done everything from digital imaging breast biopsy systems, developed Hubble space technology, tiny transmitters to monitor the fetus inside the womb, laser angioplasty using fiber optic catheters, forceps with fiber optics that led doctors to measure the pressure applied to a baby's head during delivery, all sorts of things. But I think there's some new stuff going forward that perhaps you need to know about, such as robots that can remove brain tumors. Here goes. In keeping with our theme of futuristic robots, we have a robot who can remove tumors. Do you remember the Canadian arm on the ISS, Dexter? Well, it was used to refuel foe's satellites, I think it was in 2013. Well, welcome the neuro arm, which is based off of the Canadian arm. And it's used to provide precision surgery inside of an MRI for cancer patients. Now, then there's eye trackers used in laser eye surgery. Lack of gravity changes the way eyes move about while you're in space in microgravity. And NASA developed this high-tech eye trackers to see where astronauts looked as they were working. Well, this led to eye trackers being used in corrective laser eye surgery to ensure the correct laser beam positioning, fixing long-standing problem eye movement. And we really want to make sure those lasers are right when we're going over our eyes, right? How about asthmatics, helping them breathe? A nitric oxide is what is exhaled. It's part of what we exhale, all of us. But asthmatics in particular, they can tell when they get inflamed. A lot of nitric oxide is measured in their exhaling. So thanks to the ESA, we now have something that can take measurements of the nitric oxide that's expelled. Now, this takes care of, so you can discover potential problems before they actually develop. Also, we have something that maybe helps more the octogenarian set, but keeping your bones strong. We're all familiar with when you go to space, there's a bone density loss. So obviously this problem, which on Earth is experienced by our elderly mostly, I'm not saying only, yeah, it can help us down here, but our 30-year-olds, our astronauts face the same problem. So what's an astronaut to do? Well, they do exercise daily, and that does help some. But they also do biphosphonate weekly. They take biphosphonate to assist in reducing bone loss. And so now we on Earth, same situation. Also, measuring your body's temperature. Now, in the beginning of this, I mentioned infrared. And a lot of original discoveries from NASA with regard to infrared helped out with a lot of developments on Earth. Now, this technology was turned into ear thermometers. You know what's going on. You put the thermometer in your ear. Now, it's not touching. It's not like you're putting something, sticking it in your ear and it has to touch it. So why doesn't it have to? Well, what they developed in this was to measure the temperature on planets really far away. Now, we miniaturized it here on Earth to use this technology that they developed. We miniaturized it and put it in this. So it's only checking temperature. It only has to go maybe 15 centimeters, no, not that far really, but not far at all. And just read it back off of that. So that's all it's really doing. But again, thanks to NASA. Then we get into the things that are really kind of cool. A Star Trek tractor beam that helps you pass kidney stones. Curious? Here we go. In space, there's a greater risk of developing kidney stones. Bet you didn't know that. It's one of the less glamorous parts of being an astronaut. And, well, reason for total destruction. We can't use an actual tractor beam. Do you know what the problem is with that? If you're using an actual tractor beam, okay, say you're here, this is a spacecraft. Say this is the Enterprise, and it's bringing something up. Well, what it does, you have to send down a dual beam, split it, and bring it up and push from below. But the problem is the amount of pressure you need to develop to pull it up is also enough to destroy it. So ultimately, if you use a full size, like here's a full spacecraft and here's a big object we want to pull, you're going to end up destroying it. So what's a person to do? Well, if you miniaturize it, it's not a problem. So NASA's, of course, looked at this possibility in picking up samples when you go to another planet. Say Curiosity goes along and it picks up a sample and it goes, okay, here we go. Pulls up the sample, but it never touches it. So no contamination, no cross-contamination. It doesn't contaminate with Earth stuff, and the sample doesn't contaminate Curiosity with Mars. So that's wonderful. But actually, it turns out they can also use a Star Trek type of tractor beam in this miniaturized format to remove kidney stones. Now, the last thing that I'll share with you, because things are being developed daily from NASA, discoveries that are then brought to you in some enhanced product. So, simplified kidney dialysis from spacecraft filtration systems. We all, and you may recall Trump discussing it somewhat reluctantly with Peggy Whitson, who is currently up on the ISS. She's going to be the woman who's, first of all, the person with the longest period of time by the time she comes back, but she already has set a record for the United States. Well, she said something about the filtration system that they have that filters their urine into water so that then they can drink it. And I believe, I may misquote, that Donald Trump then responded with "better you than me" or something along those lines. But this filtration system is so beyond the beyond. I mean, it's really great, obviously, obviously. So you no longer need continuous water and drain connections, use less power, is portable, they're enabled to use these things at home. Basically, the same technology removes the toxins from your blood. It does dialysis. You can do dialysis with this filtration system. So, they develop it for space, we benefit here on Earth. That's my main point, is that what NASA develops, for those of you who are against space travel, realize a lot of these things that you have, a lot of these wondrous inventions that help your health, and, okay, memory foam, that help your teeth, that help the dental Invisalign things. All these things are brought to you thanks to NASA and to space travel. And now to our main story, or stories really. It's robots of the future. They're the future, right? I mean, TV shows as far back as I can remember, from Lost in Space to Transformers, are basically a part of how we imagine the future to be. With that in mind, here are a bunch of space robots, if you will, that we either have or are currently being developed. As was said by Joe Parrish, Deputy Manager of the Mars Program Formulation Office at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, there's a revolution going on in the robotics game on planet Earth. 20 years ago, the development of robotic technology and space applications of new technology was basically, that was a NASA thing. But now the new technology is more done by Google, Apple, all these, everybody who is, getting the schooling and ready to go into those fields, they're getting picked up by these people and not by the government. Because what's the government able to offer? I mean, these companies, Apple, Facebook, Google, all these, can offer you much more from the monetary standpoint and from other areas that NASA and the government can't. NASA was used to having technology developed in-house, and now we are trying to figure out what to do with this wonderful stuff that's going on outside. Terry Fong, director of NASA's Intelligent Robotics Group, one of the biggest challenges we face in space robotics is recruiting and maintaining good talent, particularly in the Bay Area. There are lots of robotics activity. You see lots of ads for jobs. We have to say, why don't you come work for the federal government? We can't give you stock. We can't go public because we're already public. But we do work on projects that they don't work on anywhere else. So there you have it. The problems space agencies are facing. Thankfully, there's still one resource, and that's the wide-eyed space geek like you and like me, that frankly would be just happy for the honor to be part of something so big and so cool and so totally awesome, and maybe get a few bucks. So, how about a rocket-propelled miniature rocket robot for planetary exploration? Picture, if you will, the miniature robot is piggyback a lander or robotic rover. And while the, I guess you would say mothership, lands close to its target, maybe winds or maybe rocks are in the way, or maybe you just can't get there. So the operator of the rocket-propelled robot knows the direction and the distance to get there to the actual landing site. So he adjusts the heading and the elevation of the robot, the rocket-propelled robot, and he can get it to reach there with minimal thrust. It lands at the goal, and landing impact absorption reduces the shock to the robot. But wait, it gets better. Once all the rocketing is done, the robot spins its reaction wheel, and it hurls itself forward or backwards. It's not the most controllable method of motion, but planetary exploration is pretty good. The advantage is it's a closed system, which means it's sealed against dust. Now, this version of the robot doesn't have any built-in impact absorption, doesn't have a rotating outer casing, that would be able to provide, say, panoramic camera views in flight. So yeah, there's going to be some scientific instruments added, crammed into that small thing, made to weigh really little amounts. But what seems most interesting is the potential for robots like these, or perhaps smaller versions even, to operate in very low gravity. Environments like asteroids, small moons where rockets may be the best or only way of getting around. So pretty cool, right? Now, another robot would be the ESA is developing a rocket-hopping Mars robot. How about a CO2-powered hopping rocket bot that scavenges fuel from the Martian atmosphere? Can you picture it? Here's the what and why. For a rocket to work for any expended period on another planet, it has to be able to refuel itself. No brainer. And this is what the ESA is trying to make happen. The plan is to make a rocket that uses carbon dioxide as a propellant, since carbon dioxide is plentiful on Mars. The rocket would suck it straight out of the atmosphere using a radioisotope thermal generator as a power source. Curiosity uses the same thing. And gradually it would liquefy it, And then when a critical mass of CO2 is reached, the thermal generator heats up a hollow tube of pebbles made from beryllium and boron carbide. As soon as the tube is piping hot, the CO2 is injected into it, where it rapidly heats up, expands, and then fires out of a nozzle underneath your lander, and kaboosh, off it goes. This concept's been in the works for about 3 years, and it's probably got another 10 to 15 years to go, but we'll circle back sometime, mid-2020s, and let you know how it's going. Now, have you heard of MBlocks? MBlocks is actually from MIT, and it's a swarm of self-assembling robot cubes. MIT research scientist John Romashtin has been, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, has been working on MBlocks for the past several years. The way it works is physics, but it looks like magic. By spinning an internal flywheel up to about 20,000 revolutions per minute, and then suddenly applying a brake, the conservation of angular momentum causes the entire cube to flip, and in some cases even jump an appreciable distance. There's only one axis of movement at the moment, but there's always the potential to add 2 more flywheels and enable movement in any direction. Add to this an arrangement of magnets that encourage them to pivot this way and that, and then stick to the faces of another one, say, oh, we want these to form together, and boom. But there is an issue with using permanent magnets, and it's difficult. Say you want these 2 to stick together, but there happens to be another one right in here, and it has a magnet too. So if you want to control which one it sticks to, that becomes a slight problem. It would be preferable to be able to toggle the magnets on each cube off and on, making it much easier to stick cube X to cube Z without having to worry about catching cube Y. But it'll be worked out. I can think of ways right now as I'm thinking in my head. MIT's continuing to work on this, and it's apparently building an army of 100 cubes. And they want to make them self-replicating. What could possibly go wrong? Are any of you Stargate fans? Remember the replicators? Just saying. Anyway, now on to NASA's origami-inspired robot that just might one day explore Mars. This small, nimble robot can fold and unfold itself. Basically, it costs quite a bit to send something from here on Earth to Mars, to the surface of Mars. Go figure. It's, what, 39 million miles? Why would that cost much? Obviously, there's very specific limits on volume and mass sent, so NASA needed to get creative. That meant cramming as much science in as little space as possible. Enter landers and rovers that were designed to be foldable, well, and low in weight. And I give you the Puffer. That's the pop-up flat folding explorer robot. It's folded up for the transport portion, and then it unfolds to get into little places a larger rover could not. So you send it along, it rides piggyback on the larger, and then say it comes to a crater, comes off, and unfolds, and then goes exploring. Puffer's small size and weight introduces all sorts of possibilities, possibly sending more than one on a mission, which that would be awesome. Maybe they could all cooperate and explore different portions or be responsible. Okay, my mission's to pick up and check out the sulfur or the this or the whatever, and then yours is to do this. So, and maybe they could have different access to different scientific tools. It'd be very cool. It would be great for here on Earth. Maybe searching after an earthquake or tornado in the rubble for survivors. So perhaps it'll make its off-world debut soon, but really cool, what could it do on this world? And now, this is awesome, a Hawaiian robot. And doesn't that bring wild images to mind? It builds landing pads. It'd be really cool if we were to go to Mars or the moon or another planet and not have to worry about landing. In addition to atmospheric differences, there is nowhere to land unless we use a lander. But how about instead, we send ahead some robots that build us a landing pad? You see, the reason a landing pad is so important is that dust, which lack of erosive processes, mean that, especially on the moon, means that the dust is all sharp and jaggedy, it's electrostatically, it clings to everything. Gradually it'll wear down most materials, things like seals. So you really want this to work. You want a landing pad. Enter these robots. They go hard at work, they make you a landing pad, and the cool thing, like on the moon, you have to obviously know what you're facing before you send these, and we would probably have sent things like Curiosity or have orbiters, etc. in advance, so we would already know what we're dealing with. On the moon, you can heat up and you can form it using what's on the moon, what those properties are. Now on Mars, you can make bricks out of the soil, so why not make a landing pad out of it? So there's really different things for different places, and they can fine-tune the programming on the rover accordingly, the robot accordingly. But I think that is a very cool idea. And why stop there? They can build habitats. They can do all sorts of things, from maybe clean out a lava tube to make that an underground habitat, or at least plant the plants in the underground tube so they're protected from the winds and other weather events up on the surface. So I think that's a great idea. So as you can see, and I'm only covering, what, 5 of them, 6 of them, of the different kinds of robots that exist now or will exist in the near future. So now on to the launch that I so wanted to cover for you. It's a sounding rocket from NASA Wallops, and it's not just the launch that I wanted to cover, but the aurora that's expected as a result. But thanks to clouds and at least wind one of the times, it's been canceled again and again and rescheduled. So I will bring that to you when it finally goes up, hopefully this weekend. If later on, then later on. In the meantime, enjoy this launch from SpaceX.
Minus 10.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff. The 100th liftoff from Launch Pad 39A as Falcon and Dragon take flight to the International Space Station.